Alright, hello everybody. My name is Sinan Kassim, and today I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Jeff Holness. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Sinan, for inviting me. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this interview.
It's my pleasure.
Here, right at my command center in
Yes.
Coral Springs. So
Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
For sure. And my friend Jeff Holness is running for school board in Broward County.
Correct. It is actually at large, so it's county-wide, and which means we have to cover all 31 cities in Broward County. So it's a lot of work, but it's worth the effort.
Absolutely. And this seat has a lot of importance because there are two major things that you'll be able to do.
Yes.
Number one, decide the future of how we keep our children safe in Broward County.
Absolutely.
And the second part is how we can inspire the next generation of youth leaders.
Absolutely. And I enjoy speaking to young leaders like yourself because you have a good pulse on the young community, and I want to be able to reach out to our young people as well and making sure they're actively involved in making a difference in our county and in our schools as well.
I appreciate that. So my first question
Yes.
is the million-dollar question.
Yes.
Why are you running for Broward County School Board? And I'm going to add a caveat to that.
Okay.
What makes you different than all of the other candidates who are running and will be running for this position?
Correct. Well, as you know, there is currently will be an open seat on Broward County School Board. Robin Barterman is running for state rep, and it is important that we elect the right person who can make the right decision for this open seat. I am running because I believe I am that right person. I have the right experience, I have the right education, the right dedication, the right passion, and I believe I am the right choice. I've been in education for over 20 years. I was a teacher in Broward County schools for 17 years. I currently run a Command Math and Reading Center where we are, and I've been doing this for 5 years. Been very successful at it. My reputation in the community is impeccable. If you speak to all my parents of the Learning Center and prior schools, including the school leaders, they will attest to the things that I have done. And I'll tell you some examples, Sinan. For example, when I was at Lions Creek Middle School, I created student learning communities where we helped over 400 students achieve learning gains, and these were students in the bottom percentile. This is an example of my dedication, my commitment. It was not a position I was paid for, it was volunteer. And I want to bring that to the school board. We are living in times of uncertainty today with what's been happening. Not only with what has happened in Stoneman Douglas, which is really something of concern to everyone in terms of school safety, but we have other pressing problems. We have issues with, for example, mental health of our young people within our schools. I know recently they mandate that we have a 5-hour class being offered to kids in the public schools.
Right.
But I think we need to do more, and I think we can do more. Florida ranked at the bottom in our investment and our interest in mental health of young people.
Right.
And I want to change that. I also want to address the learning needs of our ESC students. We have over 32,000 ESC students.
Correct.
And I don't know if you're familiar with IEPs. Those are individual education plans for students. And oftentimes, they're just sitting there on a teacher's desk just to follow state protocol. But we need to make sure these are active documents, that they're being implemented, that our kids with ADD, ADHD, autistic kids with dyslexia, that these kids are being accommodated in our schools as well. So I am running because I believe and I am confident that I have the right experience, the right education, the right background, and the right dedication and passion to make a difference. And I think that with that in mind, I stand out more so than any other of the other candidates that we have running in the race.
All right. My next question is about your passion for education.
Yes.
Because whoever comes on this seat for school board is going to represent our children.
That is correct.
And needs to have the right experience and needs to have the passion
Yes.
for education. So my
Correct.
question to you is, what was that defining moment, whether it was in your childhood or
Yes.
adulthood, that made you realize education is your passion and this is what you're going to be doing in your life?
Correct. Well, I would say, if I were to think back on when it all started, I would probably have to go back to high school. I remember I used to be very good at math. So in high school on Fridays, the teacher would have me instruct the class in math on Fridays. And I thought that was pretty cool as a kid. You know, you're 9 or 10 years old and you're in front of a class.
Right.
And you feel very very important. You feel like you're giving back. So I think it started to be embedded from childhood to help my teammates, and I believe in team spirit as opposed to competitive spirit. So I believe in collaboration, working together.
Yeah.
And in fact, when I go on the school board, I don't intend to be divisive. I intend to see how I can work with the rest of the school board members to find real solutions to our pressing problems, such as school safety and security, such as mental health in our children, and other issues such as homelessness. We have over 5,000 homeless kids in Broward County going to schools. We need to look at how we can address those as well. So it dated back from childhood. However, when I started off on a career path in education, was a friend of mine who was an adult community school teacher, and he offered me a position. I had completed my undergrad in sociology as a teacher, and it just brought back those memories from childhood when I used to help my friends, and I knew then and there that this is where I want to be, and I continued on to that for the last 20 plus years.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's amazing. And I'm glad that you're someone who has that passion and right heart in place.
Yes.
My next question is something that concerns this area especially, where we are today in Parkland.
Right.
Because, and it's school safety.
Correct.
Because if you look at the 29 Broward charter schools
Right.
that do not meet the requirements for armed guards on campus for
Right.
school safety, if you look at the threats that we're seeing, the school shooting threats,
Right.
and at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School right here in Parkland, 17 beautiful angels left
Absolutely.
our world,
Absolutely.
and they were victims of gun violence.
Correct.
Even the students who are at those schools today are facing PTSD,
Correct.
anxiety, depression,
Absolutely.
hopelessness.
Correct. Correct.
It's a culture change,
It
and
is.
it's something that we need to eradicate when it comes to gun violence in our schools.
Correct.
How would you work as a school board member to fix and eradicate this devastating problem?
Well, first I would say that not only kids who are at Stoneman Douglas are affected,
Right.
kids from other neighboring schools are affected.
Absolutely.
My sons attend schools in Parkland. One goes to Heron Heights Elementary and the other one goes to West Glades Middle. And they're impacted. In fact, my older son, he keeps saying to me, "Dad, am I going to go to Stoneman Douglas?" So there is a fear that permeates our school system in Parkland, and not only in Parkland, but all across the county. So we need to be able to fix this problem. When we look at, not just fix the problem of gun violence, but the problem of the fear that has now been created within our schools and among our teachers as well, among students, among parents. So we're all sort of in a state of paranoia about what will happen next. And we really have to restore the confidence in our school safety communities. And I think that's an area of emphasis that I would have. Now, when it comes to the charter schools, we cannot afford to have that happen. And a lot of people, where they're not complying with security requirements. Now, Broward County School Board, unlike what many people believe, does not necessarily have as much role in how a charter school is governed. They sort of have their own mini school board, per se, that they sort of determine what to implement within their schools. So, however, Broward County schools can advise them in terms of staying in compliance, and I think that's what they're trying to do. And the charter schools, I believe you said the number is 29.
29.
That should not be, and we really need to continue to put the pressure on them to stay in compliance of having at least an armed security on school campus. Now, for me, I think I'm hoping we can go in even a much further direction when it comes to security on campus. I personally do not support arming teachers. That's a portion of Senate Bill 7030.
Right.
That I do not support that. However, I do support having a small unit of armed security specialists that are well trained to take care of security on campus. And I know we're mandating having at least one per 1,000. I am hoping as we go on in the future, we can have at least 3 or 4 armed security specialists that are well trained to secure our schools and control different zones on each school. So that way, when we have an emergency or tragedy, we don't have just one person responding
Right.
to an assault rifle situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you're someone who sees the problem and goes by the English proverb, necessity is the mother of all invention.
Correct.
You can come up with the right solutions.
Correct. And you know, Sinan, there is no magic formula.
Right.
We are dealing with unprecedented times.
Yeah.
And all of us are in this together.
Correct.
This is not just a school board issue. This is an issue that we have to work collectively as a community.
Correct.
City governments, municipalities, and county governments, and the sheriff's office, and
To
police
come
departments.
together.
We have to come together and find these solutions.
Absolutely.
I know we have the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Task Force, which is a good idea, but I believe we have to now have a culture within our cities that this is not just a school board problem. This is our problem. These are our children, and we have to work collectively to make sure we're finding solutions
Absolutely.
to gun violence in our schools and making sure they're safe.
Absolutely. My next question is another culture question.
Okay.
We see that in our schools there's learning by our textbooks, learning by the outdated textbooks
Correct.
rather than learning by doing, than experiences.
But I
And
would hope
this
they're
is-
not outdated.
Right, but it happens.
I
It
understand,
happens.
I understand.
And you know, it's something that we see, that we've been seeing. It's something I've been advocating against. And you know, it's not bad to go by the books, but
Right.
what about the role of experiential learning? Learning by real experiences that can cultivate our understanding of the real world. How would you, as a school board member, try to change the culture that's been happening for hundreds and thousands of years
Right.
that we want to see a change in today?
Well, you know, I personally believe that we really, as a school board, need to engage the larger community so that we can have our students not only sitting in classrooms, reading textbooks and so on, but they can go out as a part of their classroom credit to different companies and sort of see exactly what this career field is like. I believe even Mayor Scott Brook in Coral Springs, he has, I believe it's called, is it Project?
Project leadership.
Project Leadership,
Yes,
where he's
sir.
exposing young people to different careers.
Right.
And I think that is so commendable.
Right.
We need to, as a school board, and not just in school safety, but in learning outcome, in how we instruct our students in these competitive times globally,
Right.
we need to be able to engage the larger community and see how we can get away from the traditional way of learning because times have changed.
Right. And do you see standardized testing as the future of measuring intellect in this country?
I would hope it is not. I am not a fan of standardized testing being priority in determining a student learning outcome. I think we have to look at many other areas besides one testing. Standardized testing has its purpose. It does provide some evaluative purpose for looking at kids' learning outcome, but it should not be the only factor. And unfortunately, we are now teaching to testing. We are now teaching to the FSA. Even private schools have the Iowa test and all these different things that they have.
Right.
And it's not a good measure or the only measure that we should use to determine learning outcome in our children. There are so many other areas that we can look at as well. And we should adapt to the new way of kids learning. We should make sure that the kids' learning preferences in our modern world, that our teaching strategies are aligned with those learning preferences. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm glad we may have someone on the school board who will fight for the future of education.
I absolutely will.
And the next thing is also about the future of education and the culture of our schools.
Yes.
And that's paying our teachers.
Correct.
I want to read you a statistic
Yes.
which says that what teachers make now
Yes.
is less than what the average teacher earned almost 2 decades ago. The teachers are one of the most important roles in our society in inspiring, educating the next generation of leaders, as we've talked
Correct.
about.
Correct.
How would you fight for on the school board, and what powers would you have to try and advocate and push for more teacher pay?
Correct. Well, I don't know if you're aware of my priorities, but one of my top 5 priorities is valuing our teachers more.
Right.
We need to not only respect our teachers, but we need to place value on them. Respect is important,
Right.
but valuing teachers means that we do it through action. And we have to put people over goods. And what I mean by that is we tend to, for example, we have a lot of duplicate programs in Broward County.
Right.
And we're spending money on these programs that actually do the same thing, whereby we could actually use those funds to increase our teachers' pay, our teachers' benefit. And we also need to provide, there should not be a monopoly on for example, health insurance for teachers. We should have options available to them. We should have competition in the market so they can get a better rate on their health insurance. Most often they pay health insurance for them. The school board will provide health insurance for a teacher, but a teacher who's raising a family of 2 or 3 kids, it costs a whole lot of money to then insure the children. So we need to look at how we can provide better benefits, better compensation for our teachers. And I'll tell you, Sinan, in the state of Florida, we are ranked 46 in the nation, 46 in teachers' pay. We're at the bottom. There are only 4 states that are lower than us. We absolutely need to change that in the state of Florida. In addition to that, we are also ranked 41 in per student funding. Per student funding, we're ranked 41 in the nation, in the state of Florida. So we're providing less money to educate our children, and we're paying teachers far less than any other state in the United States. And we have to change that. So I will be an advocate for our teachers. I was a teacher for 17 years in Broward County Schools. I was a member of the Broward Teachers Union as well for many years while I was in the school system. I taught middle school at Walter C. Young Middle, Apollo Middle, Lions Creek Middle, and it has always been a topic of discussion that teachers are overworked and underpaid and undervalued. I am going to be one of the strongest advocates for teachers, and I believe if you look at the slate of candidates, I have the most significant experience as an educator within Broward County with leadership experience as well, because I was the school advisory council chair for many schools, and I was also the ESOL coordinator for Lions Creek Middle School, and I was also the diversity awareness committee chair. So I've had many roles.
Right.
So when you look at leadership and years of experience, I put all of that together with my education, I believe I am the best candidate.
And that's very important
Yeah.
to realize is that we're getting a real teacher
Correct.
to be in the position. Because a lot of the people that we have in these school board positions, even our own Secretary of Education in the United States,
Correct.
never taught in a school before.
Correct.
So having someone who has real teaching experience is
Yes.
incredibly important
Yes.
that we have to value when voting for the next school board.
Correct. And I'll say this also, Sinan. The school board is a leadership position. You're leading the county and you're setting policies to benefit our children. So having a teacher's background is absolutely important, but also having community experience background
Absolutely.
is really important. And I'll tell you some of my community experience background. I was the chair of the Plantation Parks and Recreation Board for a few years. I was a member of that board for 5 years. I actually was a member of the Plantation Historical Society. I am currently a member of the Consumer Protection Board for Broward County. So I've held many community roles. I was the president of Kiwanis Club.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
and
wow.
in the schools they have key clubs as well.
Right.
So these are community leadership experience that I am bringing to the board, in addition to my experience as a teacher, and in
Correct.
addition to my education background as someone who is well educated in the field of education.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. Back to culture again.
Yes.
Because it's so important
It is
that we
absolutely
change the
important.
culture. And when it comes to disciplinary practices
Correct.
and policies
Yeah.
in Broward County,
Right.
it's important to set a precedent for the rest of the country now because of what we're seeing. And I want to read you another statistic by the United States Department of Education Office for Civil Rights. It suggests that black students face disproportionately high rates of suspension and expulsion from school. For instance, in K-12 schools, black male students make up only 8% of enrollees, but account for 25% of suspensions.
Correct.
And this is contributing to what we call the school-to-prison pipeline.
Correct.
How are you going to change this culture of these bad disciplinary practices in Broward County and lead us into the future when it comes to better practices in this area?
Correct. Well, I was an assistant principal designee for the last 2 to 3 years before I opened my own learning center. And I am familiar with the discipline matrix that we use in the school system. And yes, sometimes it lends itself, if implemented improperly, lends itself to certain biased way of disciplining our kids, and we have to be careful. We have to have tolerance training for our leadership within Broward County Schools, for our administrators, to make sure that, and we also have to have culture trainings, because we have such a diverse community that individuals need to understand diversity and the different students that we have within Broward County. And I'll give you an example. In Broward County alone, we have almost students from over 200 countries, almost 200 languages. We need to be able to make sure that our leadership within the schools, that they are educated in terms and trained properly in terms of tolerance on racial grounds, on cultural grounds, and so on. So we don't have this disparity with a specific group, like our black students having disproportionate numbers going, from school to prison. We also need to look at, I know we attempted to sort of fix this disparity by having programs like the Promise program. We need to look at how we can modify, for example, even Promise, how we can make adjustments to make sure it's working in the interest of our students. And we also need to look at how we can work in the interest of all our students as well.
Right.
So I will be an advocate for representing properly our students overall within the county, and making sure that we have fair disciplinary practices, not only for blacks but for Hispanics and for all our students, that it applies to all, and we don't have this disproportionate number existing. And we do need to look at the programs we have in place. We do need to look at Promise and make sure it's working effectively. And if we need to make adjustments to it, then we need to make adjustments. I will hold everyone accountable for what's happening in our county, including our superintendent, if we need accountability on certain issues. I intend to work with everyone. I intend to work with our superintendent, with our school board, and to make sure that we're finding real solutions, and to make sure we're making adjustments as necessary for our children, and that we don't have this disparity in how we treat one group of students over the other.
Right. Absolutely. We're almost coming towards the end, but I want to ask you about, again, back to the future of education.
Yes.
And technology, the role of technology and better practices in our teaching. Because we are heading into an information revolution. Before World War II, information multiplied every 100 years.
Yes.
Afterwards, it was every 50 years.
Right.
Today, it's every single minute, and by the year 2020, next year, it'll just be a mere second.
Correct.
So the need for, keeping up with the times is much more important in our education than ever.
Right. Right.
What do you feel about the role of technology and better practices for the future of our education?
Correct. Well, that's the direction that we're heading, and that's the direction we're already in. And it's important that we make sure our kids are competitive globally. And in order to do that, we do have to place an emphasis on technology within our schools.
Right.
However, we have limited funding for different programs and for technology and so on from the state. So at the same time, we're working with these boundaries where we have to be cautious in how we spend in one area versus the other, because we're looking to increase teachers' pay. We're also looking to maintain technology to a competitive level for our students. So it's all about balancing act, making sure that our budget is properly looked at and that we're distributing funds in the right places so we can meet the needs of our students overall.
Right.
And we can ensure that our teachers are valued and that they would put our children first.
Right.
So technology is important, and we need to place a great emphasis on it. I believe our superintendent has placed a lot of emphasis on technology as well, and members of the school board. And I intend for us to continue to do that, and I will work with all of them to make sure that we are emphasizing technology, but we're also taking care of our teachers as well with the limited funding that we have.
Fabulous. And now, since we're at the end,
Yes.
just one last final pitch
Yes.
to the voters.
Yes.
Why they should vote for you for school board.
Well, like I mentioned before, Sinan, I believe I have the right experience. I believe I have the right education. I believe I have the right dedication, right passion. I believe I am the right choice. And when you look at my resume, when you look at the years of experience, not only leadership within the schools, as an educator and as an administrator, educational leader within Broward County Schools, but also as a community leader and also my education background. I spent 5 years of my life studying in the field of education. And also the fact that I opened my own business as a business owner, but it's geared towards learning. It's a learning center to help children succeed.
Right.
So this is obviously my passion. This is what I live to do every day. I get up every day and I'm happy to come to work. I never had a day where I don't want to be here. So the passion is there, the dedication is there, the education is there, and the experience is there. I don't think you'll find that in any other candidate that we have on the state. And as a result, I believe I am the right choice, and people will be happy with the learning outcome of our students, and also they will be more confident in overall how our students are performing and how they're feeling in Broward County Schools.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Jeff Holness, running for Broward County School Board, District 9.
District 9 at large.
At large.
Vote 2020 August.
Vote 2020 August. Yes. And we look forward to seeing more of you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right.